in the biting chill of Velquar's shattered landscape, where the once mighty spires of alien architecture lay crumbled like forgotten dreams under a perpetual blanket of snow, Max trudged forward. He was no soldier by trade, just a human engineer snatched from Earth's distant colonies during one of those brutal interstellar raids that the galaxy's overlords love to orchestrate. Now, bound in chains of servitude on this war-ravaged planet, he slaved away in the bowels of Velquar's underground forges, designing gadgets and weapons for his captors, the imperious Zorathians, a race of ethereal beings who ruled with an iron fist wrapped in cosmic silk. But tonight, under the fractured moonlight piercing through the storm clouds, Max had slipped his bonds for a desperate bid at freedom. The wind howled like a vengeful spirit, whipping flakes of ice against his weathered face, and his breath fogged the air in ragged bursts. He clutched his toolkit close, the makeshift device he'd cobbled together, a compact energy disruptor meant to jam the tracking implants in his skin, humming faintly in his pocket. It was his ticket out, or so he hoped. Velquar was a frozen hell, its surface scarred by endless conflicts between rival factions vying for control of its vast mineral veins that powered the galaxy's most fearsome fleets. Max's muscles ached from months of forced labor, his hands calloused and scarred from welding plasma conduits under the watchful eyes of his Zorathian overseers. But humans were resilient. That's what kept him going. Earth's stories of survival, of pushing through the impossible, echoed in his mind like a mantra. As he crested a ridge of jagged ice, something caught his eye, a faint glow amid the ruins of what looked like a toppled shuttle. Curiosity tugged at him, overriding the instinct to run. He approached cautiously, his boots crunching against the frozen ground. There, huddled against the wreckage, was a figure. Small, trembling, wrapped in tattered remnants of what might have been elegant robes. She was alien, no doubt about it, her skin a luminous pale white that seemed to shimmer even in the dim light, her hair a cascade of silver-white strands that flowed like liquid moonlight down her back. Pointed ears, delicate and elf-like, peeked through the strands, twitching slightly with each shiver. Her body was curvaceous, almost sculpted, with curves that spoke of a grace born from stars, clad in a form-fitting garment that hugged her form provocatively. Its fabric torn but still hinting at opulent design, silken threads embroidered with glowing runes. She looked up as he neared, her eyes wide and luminous, a deep violet that held the depth of nebulae. Fear flickered there, raw and unfiltered, but also something else, a spark of defiance. She was shaking violently, the cold seeping into her bones in a way that no Zorathian should endure. Their kind was adapted to harsher climates, but this one seemed vulnerable, perhaps injured or exhausted from whatever catastrophe had befallen her shuttle. "Hey," Max called softly, his voice cutting through the wind. He raised his hands to show he meant no harm, though his own coat, a rugged, insulated human-issue parka scavenged from his captivity, was the only barrier between him and the freezing gale. "You okay? Looks like you're freezing out here." She didn't respond at first, just stared at him with those mesmerizing eyes, her lips parted in a silent gasp. Her breath came in shallow puffs, and he could see the way her body quivered, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Without thinking, driven by that innate human urge to protect, to connect, Max shrugged off his coat. The cold hit him like a punch, but he ignored it, stepping closer and draping the heavy fabric over her shoulders. It enveloped her like a warm embrace, the lingering heat from his body seeping into her chilled form. "There," he said, kneeling down to adjust it around her. "That should help. I'm Max, by the way. Human, if that wasn't obvious. What's your name?" She pulled the coat tighter, her fingers long and elegant, tipped with subtle iridescent nails, clutching the material as if it were a lifeline. A soft sigh escaped her lips, and for the first time, she spoke, her voice melodic, like chimes in a gentle breeze, laced with an accent that rolled like distant thunder. "Lyra," she whispered. I am Lyra." Max nodded, trying to smile through chattering teeth. "Lyra, nice name. What happened here? Crash, you look like you could use some help." As he spoke, he couldn't help but notice how the coat dwarfed her, making her seem even more delicate, yet there was a strength in her gaze that intrigued him. Little did he know, as he shared that simple act of kindness, that Lyra was no ordinary Zorathian. She was the hidden daughter of Empress Zorath, the galactic sovereign whose powers could warp the very fabric of space, bending stars to her will and commanding fleets that spanned empires. Zorath's wrath was legendary, her rule absolute, and Lyra's presence on this forsaken battlefield was no accident. It was a thread in a web of intrigue that could unravel the cosmos. But in that moment, all Max saw was a girl in need, and his human heart responded without question. They sat there for a while, the storm raging around them, as Max rummaged through his toolkit for anything that might help, a small thermal pack he activated and pressed into her hands. "Hold this, it'll warm you up from the inside." He watched as color slowly returned to her cheeks, her violet eyes softening as she studied him. There was something magnetic about her, a pull that went beyond the exotic allure of her features. Her scent, faint but intoxicating, like blooming flowers on an alien world mixed with the crispness of ozone, wafted toward him. Lyra tilted her head, her pointed ears flicking curiously. "You, give your warmth so freely? To a stranger?" Max chuckled, rubbing his arms to stave off the cold. "Yeah, well, where I come from, we don't let people freeze if we can help it. Humans are built tough, but we're also, I don't know, wired to look out for each other, even if each other means someone from another star." She smiled faintly, a gesture that lit up her face like a dawn breaking over a frozen horizon. "You're kind, intriguing. I have heard tales of humans, stubborn, resilient, but this..." She touched the coat's sleeve. "This is more." As the wind died down slightly, Max glanced around the ruins. Shadows moved in the distance, patrols, perhaps, or scavengers drawn by the crash. "We can't stay here long. If you're up for it, I know a way through these canyons. There's an old outpost nearby, might have shelter." Lyra hesitated, then nodded, rising with a grace that belied her earlier weakness. The coat hung on her like a cape, accentuating her sensual form, the way the fabric clung to her curves, the subtle sway of her hips as she moved. Max felt a stir within him, a mix of protectiveness and something deeper. More primal, he led the way, his mind racing with questions, but for now, survival came first. Deeper into the night they ventured, the snow crunching underfoot, the ruins whispering secrets of battles long past. Lyra walked close beside him, her presence a comforting warmth against the cold. She shared snippets of her story, fleeing from pursuers, her shuttle sabotaged in a political ploy she barely understood. Max listened, his engineer's mind piecing together the puzzle, but his heart drawn to the vulnerability in her voice. As they navigated a narrow pass, a sudden rumble shook the ground. Ice cracked beneath them, and Lyra slipped, her cry echoing. Max lunged, grabbing her arm just in time, pulling her back with a strength born of desperation. They tumbled together into a snowdrift, his body shielding hers from the fall. Breathless, faces inches apart, their eyes locked. Her lips were soft, inviting, and for a heartbeat, the galaxy faded away. "You're safe," he murmured, helping her up, but as they pressed on, unknown to Max, Lyra's thoughts swirled with conflict. Her mother's empire loomed large, and this human's simple heroism was awakening feelings she never knew existed. The outpost loomed ahead, a dim silhouette against the stormy sky. Inside, it was sparse, a flickering heater, salvaged supplies. Max busied himself starting a fire from emergency flares, while Lyra shed the coat momentarily to inspect a gash on her arm, her skin glowing faintly in the low light. The sight of her elegant, otherworldly stirred him again. As warmth filled the room, they talked. Max shared stories of Earth, vast oceans, towering cities, the unyielding spirit of humanity that had propelled them to the stars despite overwhelming odds. Lyra listened raptly, her fingers tracing patterns on the coat's fabric. "Your world sounds alive," she said softly. "Mine is order, power, but cold." In that shared vulnerability, a bond began to form, fragile yet electric. Max didn't know it yet, but this encounter would ignite a fire that could challenge empires. Hours passed, the storm outside a distant roar. Lyra leaned closer, her hand brushing his. "Thank you, Max, for the coat, for everything." He smiled, feeling the pull. "Anytime," but as sleep beckoned, a distant hum grew, ships approaching. Danger was closing in, and the true test of their budding connection was about to begin. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the thin walls of the outpost like the growl of an awakening beast. Max's eyes snapped open, his body tensing instinctively as adrenaline surged through his veins. He sat up from the makeshift pallet they'd fashioned from salvaged blankets, his gaze darting to the narrow viewport smeared with frost. Outside, the storm had eased just enough to reveal silhouettes against the starry void, sleek Zorathian interceptors slicing through the night sky, their engines pulsing with an ominous blue glow. Scouts, no doubt, drawn by the shuttle's distress beacon or perhaps something more deliberate. His heart pounded, not just from the threat, but from the warmth of Lyra's form still curled close beside him, her breath soft and even in the dim light. She stirred at his movement, her violet eyes fluttering open, reflecting the faint flicker of the heater's embers. "Max!" Her voice was a whisper, laced with a sleepy allure that sent a shiver down his spine. one that had nothing to do with the cold seeping back in. The coat he'd given her had slipped slightly during their brief rest, revealing the smooth curve of her shoulder, her pale skin almost iridescent under the low illumination. She shifted, pulling it back around herself, but not before he caught a glimpse of the way her garment clung to her body, accentuating the gentle swell of her hips and the elegant arch of her back. There was an otherworldly sensuality to her, something that pulled at him like gravity, making the air between them feel charged. Electric? Ships, he murmured, his voice low and urgent, though he couldn't tear his eyes away from her for a moment longer than necessary. They're coming this way. We need to move now. Lyra's expression shifted from drowsy contentment to sharp alertness, her pointed ears twitching as if attuning to the distant rumble. She rose fluidly, the coat draping over her like a lover's caress, and pressed a hand to the wall, closing her eyes briefly. They are hunting, she said softly, her tone carrying a weight that hinted at secrets unspoken. Not just for wreckage, for me? Max's brow furrowed, but there was no time to probe. He grabbed his toolkit, slinging it over his shoulder, and motioned for her to follow. The outpost's rear exit led into a labyrinth of ice-carved tunnels, remnants of ancient mining operations that honeycombed Velquar's crust. As they slipped out into the biting wind, he felt her hand brush his arm, delicate fingers seeking reassurance, or perhaps offering it. The contact was brief, but it lingered, a spark that ignited something deeper amid the peril. They plunged into the tunnels, the darkness swallowing them whole save for the faint glow from Max's improvised flashlight, a jury-rigged plasma cell from his disruptor. The air grew thicker, laced with the metallic tang of minerals, and the walls glistened with frozen veins of crystal that caught the light like scattered diamonds. Lyra moved with a grace that belied the urgency, her steps silent and sure, while Max's boots echoed faintly, a human rhythm in this alien underworld. But as they delved deeper, the hum of the ships faded, replaced by the intimate sounds of their breathing, the occasional brush of fabric as they navigated tight passages. In one narrow squeeze, where the tunnel constricted like a throat, Max went first, his broad shoulders scraping against the ice. He turned to help her through, extending a hand. Lyra took it, her palm cool yet soft against his calloused skin, and as she pressed forward, their bodies aligned momentarily, her curves molding against him in the confined space. Time seemed to stretch, the cold forgotten in the heat that bloomed where they touched. Her breath warmed his neck, carrying that intoxicating scent of hers, like wildflowers blooming in a thunderstorm. Max's pulse quickened, a rush of desire mingling with the adrenaline of escape. He could feel the subtle tremor in her, not from fear now, but something else, anticipation, perhaps mirroring his own unspoken longing. "You're stronger than you look," she whispered as they emerged on the other side, her voice husky, eyes gleaming in the dim light. There was a playful glint there, a tease that cut through the tension like a knife through silk. Max managed a grin, though his mind raced with the feel of her against him. Humans are full of surprises, comes with the territory, adapting, surviving, connecting. He adjusted the coat on her shoulders, his fingers lingering a fraction too long on the fabric, tracing the line of her collarbone beneath. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into the touch, her violet gaze locking onto his with an intensity that made the tunnel feel warmer, more intimate. They pressed on, the path widening into a cavernous chamber where bioluminescent fungi clung to the ceiling, casting a soft, ethereal blue glow over everything. It was almost romantic, this hidden world beneath the surface, a stark contrast to the chaos above. Max paused to check his disruptor, ensuring it was charged, while Lyra wandered a few steps ahead, her silhouette outlined in the luminescence. The way she moved, hips swaying with an innate rhythm, her silver hair cascading like a veil, drew his eyes inexorably. She turned, catching him watching, and a slow smile curved her lips, full and inviting. "This place, it hums with energy," she said, her voice echoing softly. She extended a hand toward a cluster of glowing crystals, and they pulsed brighter at her touch, as if responding to her. "Like you, Max, there's a fire in you that draws me." He stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking until he could feel the heat radiating from her body, mingling with his own. The suspense of their flight hung in the air. But here, in this momentary sanctuary, it transformed into something charged, erotic. "And you," he replied, his voice dropping to a gravelly whisper, "you're like nothing I've ever known. Mysterious, beautiful, dangerous, maybe." Lyra's laugh was low and melodic, vibrating through him. She reached up, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw, sending jolts of electricity across his skin. Dangerous? Perhaps, but you gave me your coat without fear. That bravery, it stirs something in me." Her touch trailed down his neck, light as a feather, yet igniting a fire that spread southward. Max's breath hitched, his hands finding her waist, pulling her gently closer. The coat slipped open slightly, revealing the tantalizing outline of her form beneath the torn garment, curves that begged to be explored, skin that glowed with an inner light. Their lips hovered inches apart, the air thick with unspoken promises. The distant thrum of engines echoed faintly through the rock, a reminder of the hunt, but it only heightened the moment, turning their proximity into a stolen thrill. Max leaned in, capturing her mouth in a kiss that started tentative, exploratory, then deepened with a hunger born of survival's edge. Lyra responded eagerly, her body arching against his, her hands sliding under his shirt to feel the hard planes of his chest. The contrast was intoxicating, her softness against his rugged strength, alien grace meeting human passion. As they broke apart, gasping, her eyes darkened with desire. "We must keep moving," she murmured, though her fingers lingered, tracing patterns that made him ache. "But this fire between us, it will guide us." Max nodded, his mind foggy with want, but sharpened by the peril. They hurried on, the cavern giving way to twisting corridors that sloped downward. Whispers of pursuit grew, faint shouts in an alien tongue, the whine of scanners probing the depths. Lyra's hand in his became an anchor, her presence a beacon in the dark. She shared more as they ran, fragments of her life in the shadows of power, always hidden, always fleeing. "My mother, she rules with stars in her grasp," she confessed in a hushed tone, her words laced with a vulnerability that made Max want to shield her from the universe itself. In a larger antechamber, they paused again, breaths coming in sync. The bioluminescence here was stronger, bathing them in a seductive hue. Lyra pressed against him, her body fitting perfectly, as if molded for this. "Touch me, Max," she whispered, guiding his hand to the curve of her hip, where the fabric of her garment was thin, almost translucent. His fingers explored, feeling the warmth beneath, the subtle quiver of her response. It was erotic, this dance on the knife's edge, suspense weaving through desire, each caress a defiance against the encroaching danger. A sudden crackle echoed, a comm device activating nearby, voices barking orders. They froze, hearts racing. Max pulled her behind a crystalline outcrop, their bodies entwined in the shadows. His lips found her neck, trailing kisses that muffled her soft gasp, turning fear into fuel. "We'll get through this," he promised against her skin, his hands roaming with a gentle urgency that promised more. As the voices faded, they slipped away once more, the erotic tension simmering, building toward an inevitable release. But the hunt was closing in, and deeper secrets waited in the tunnels ahead, where Lyra's true heritage might unravel everything. The path narrowed again, forcing them into intimate proximity, bodies brushing with every step. Lyra's scent enveloped him, her whispers turning teasing, erotic in their promise. "Imagine what we could do, free from this chase," she breathed, her hand slipping lower, grazing his thigh. Max groaned softly, the suspense of evasion amplifying every sensation. They emerged into a vast underground lake, its surface mirror-still, reflecting the glowing ceiling like a starry abyss. Here, in this breathtaking expanse, they could hear the pursuers more clearly, boots echoing, scanners beeping. Max scanned for an exit, his mind sharp, but his body alive with the memory of her touch. Lyra pulled him toward a hidden alcove, her eyes alight with mischief amid the danger. "Quickly," she urged, but as they ducked in, she turned to him, pressing close. The alcove was tight, their forms melding, breaths mingling. Her lips claimed his again, fiercer this time, hands exploring with a boldness that left him breathless. The erotic pull was undeniable, a counterpoint to the suspense building outside. Fingers tangled in hair, bodies grinding in rhythmic need, they lost themselves momentarily. Max's hands cupped her, feeling the fullness of her, the way she responded with soft moans that echoed faintly. It was raw, passionate, a human-alien fusion that defied the stars. But a splash disrupted the reverie, pursuers crossing the lake. They broke apart, flushed and ready, dashing toward a submerged tunnel that promised escape. Deeper they went, the water lapping at their ankles, then knees, the cold a stark contrast to the heat between them. Lyra's garment clung transparently now, outlining her G letter 1E3I C letter 1EA3M form in ways that tested Max's focus. He led, but glanced back often, drawn to her like a moth to flame. In the watery depths, they swam through submerged passages, bodies gliding together, touches accidental yet charged. Emerging gasping on the other side, they collapsed in a dry chamber, laughter bubbling up, hysterical, relieving. That was close, Max panted, pulling her into his arms, the erotic tension reignited, kisses turning heated, hands wandering freely. In this respite, they explored further, boundaries blurring in the glow of survival's thrill. Yet the hum returned, louder. Suspense mounted as they rose, ready for the next leg, their bond forged stronger in desire's fire. The hum intensified, morphing from a distant drone into a thunderous roar that reverberated through the cavern walls, shaking loose pebbles and sending ripples across the underground lake's surface. Max and Lyra froze in their embrace, the laughter dying on their lips as reality crashed back in like a tidal wave. Water dripped from their clothes, pooling at their feet. But the chill was nothing compared to the icy grip of impending doom. Max's senses sharpened, every nerve alive with the thrill of the hunt turning on them. He pulled away just enough to scan the chamber, his eyes darting to the submerged tunnel they'd emerged from, now a potential trap, and the shadowed alcoves that might offer fleeting cover. Lyra's hand tightened in his, her violet eyes wide with a mix of fear and resolve. Her silver hair plastered against her skin in glistening strands that made her look like a mythical siren risen from the depths. "They're here," she whispered, her voice trembling not with weakness, but with the weight of unspoken truths. The pursuers' voices echoed clearer now, barked commands in the melodic yet harsh Zorathian tongue, accompanied by the whine of energy weapons charging. Max could make out the splashes, boots wading through the shallows, scanners sweeping like predatory eyes. His mind raced, piecing together escape routes from the fragments of maps he'd memorized during his enslavement. But curiosity gnawed at him. Why her? What made this ethereal woman the target of such relentless fury? Without a word, he tugged her toward a narrow crevice on the far side of the chamber, hidden behind a veil of dripping stalactites. They slipped through, the rock scraping against their wet forms, forcing them into a crouch. The space opened into a winding ascent, a natural staircase carved by eons of water flow, slick and treacherous. As they climbed, the sounds below grew frantic, shouts of discovery, the hiss of blasters firing into the water, testing for hidden foes. Max's heart hammered in his chest, each beat a dramatic crescendo building toward an unknown peak. He glanced back at Lyra, her face illuminated by sporadic glows from embedded crystals, and saw something new in her expression. A flicker of power, restrained but simmering, like a star on the verge of supernova. They burst into an upper gallery, a vast dome riddled with glowing fissures that bathed everything in an otherworldly crimson light, as if the planet's core bled through the stone. Here, the air hummed with latent energy, vibrating against their skin like a living entity. Max paused, catching his breath, but Lyra urged him onward, her grip urgent. "This way, there's a chamber ahead, ancient, forgotten, it might hold answers." Answers? The word hung between them, thrilling in its promise, stirring a curiosity that overrode the fear. What secrets did she harbor? Max followed, his boots slipping on the uneven floor, but his human tenacity kept him steady. The pursuers were close now. He could hear the clatter of their armored forms echoing up the staircase, their leader, a guttural voice, bellowing orders to seal off escapes. Thrilling anticipation coiled in Max's gut, the kind that came from staring down the barrel of impossibility and daring it to blink first. They reached the ancient chamber, a spherical room etched with intricate runes that pulsed faintly, as if awakening to their presence. In the center stood a pedestal, atop it a crystalline orb swirling with inner storms of light, perhaps a relic, a weapon, or something far more profound. Lyra approached it hesitantly, her fingers hovering over its surface. This is a nexus of my people's power," she confessed, her voice dropping to a dramatic whisper that echoed like thunder in the enclosed space. "It connects to the stars, to the very essence of Zorathia." Max's eyes widened, surprise hitting him like a bolt. Zorathia, the empire he'd heard whispered about in the forges, the dominion that crushed worlds under its heel. But before he could question, the chamber shook violently. The pursuers had arrived, blasting through the entrance in a shower of rock and dust. 5 of them, clad in sleek, iridescent armor that shimmered like Lyra's skin, weapons leveled, plasma rifles humming with lethal intent. Their leader, a towering figure with scarred, pointed ears and eyes like burning coals, sneered, "Princess Lyra, your flight ends here. The Empress demands your return or your termination." Princess, the revelation slammed into Max with surprising force, a climax of betrayal and wonder that left him reeling. Lyra wasn't just any alien fugitive, she was royalty, heir to the Galactic throne. Her mother, Empress Zorath, the one who bent stars, who commanded powers that could reshape reality. Curiosity exploded within him. Why flee? What darkness lurked in that legacy? But there was no time for contemplation. The leader fired, a bolt of energy scorching the air toward them. Max dove, tackling Lyra behind the pedestal just as the orb flared to life, deflecting the blast in a burst of radiant energy. The chamber erupted into chaos, a thrilling melee where human ingenuity clashed with alien might. Max rolled to his feet, grabbing his disruptor from the toolkit. It wasn't designed for combat, but he'd modified it during his captivity, turning it into a makeshift EMP emitter. He fired a pulse, the device whining as it unleashed a wave that shorted two of the attackers' weapons, sparks flying from their armor. They staggered, cursing in their tongue, but the others advanced, blades extending from their gauntlets, vibrating edges that could slice through stone. Lyra cried out, not in fear, but in defiance. She touched the orb fully now, and a surge of power coursed through her, her eyes glowing with violet fire. "You will not take me," she roared, her voice amplified, echoing with dramatic intensity. Waves of energy rippled from her, slamming into the nearest assailant and hurling him against the wall with bone-crunching force. Max stared in awe surprising, thrilling awe as she revealed her heritage, channeling the galactic power she'd inherited. But it was raw, uncontrolled, draining her visibly, her body trembling under the strain. The battle intensified, a dramatic whirlwind of motion and light. Max charged the leader, dodging a swipe that sheared a chunk from the pedestal. He countered with a human brawl, a punch to the visor, cracking it, followed by a knee to the gut that exploited the armor's weak joint. The Zorathian grunted, surprised by the ferocity of this lowly slave, but Max pressed on, his engineer's mind spotting vulnerabilities, a power pack on the back. He yanked his toolkit's multi-tool, jamming it into the seam and twisting. Sparks erupted, the armor seizing up, leaving the leader vulnerable. Meanwhile, Lyra weaved energy like threads of fate, binding another attacker in luminous chains that crushed his limbs. But the remaining two flanked her, one landing a glancing blow that drew a line of shimmering blood across her arm. She gasped, the orb's light flickering as her concentration wavered. Max's heart clenched, curiosity about her power mingling with a protective surge. He couldn't let her fall. With a yell that echoed humanity's unyielding spirit, he leaped onto one assailant from behind, wrapping his arm around its neck in a chokehold honed from Earth survival tales. The alien thrashed, but Max held firm, muscles burning, until it slumped unconscious. The last pursuer turned on him, blade raised for killing strike, time slowed, thrilling suspense hanging in the balance. But Lyra, rallying, hurled a bolt of pure starlight that pierced the armor, vaporizing the threat in a flash of brilliance. Silence fell, broken only by their ragged breaths and the hum of the orb settling back to dormancy. Max staggered to her side, helping her up, his hands gentle on her wounded arm. "Princess?" he asked, voice thick with surprise and curiosity. "You could have told me." Lyra leaned against him, her body warm and yielding despite the pain, her eyes meeting his with a dramatic vulnerability. "I feared it would change. This." She gestured between them, the bond forged in fire and desire. But as she spoke, the chamber rumbled again, not from pursuers, but from something deeper. Cracks spiderwebbed across the floor, and a hidden door groaned open, revealing a passage lined with holographic displays flickering to life. Images of stars bending, empires rising, Zorath's legacy, perhaps, or a map to freedom. Thrilling possibilities unfolded before them, but a new surprise loomed. Distant alarms blared, signaling reinforcements. The climax wasn't over. It was evolving, drawing them into greater depths of mystery. Max wrapped an arm around her waist, the coat still draped over her, now battle-torn but symbolic of his unwavering protection. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." They stepped into the passage, the holograms whispering secrets that piqued endless curiosity. Visions of Zorath's true power, hidden weaknesses, and a prophecy involving a human savior. The thrill of the unknown propelled them forward, hearts pounding in unison as the dramatic tapestry of their fates intertwined further. Yet, as they delved deeper, a shadowy figure emerged from the holograms, a projection of Empress Zorath herself, her face a mirror of Lyra's but etched with cosmic authority. "Daughter," the voice boomed, surprising them both with its intimacy and menace. "You cannot hide forever, and you, human, you meddle in forces beyond your grasp." Max's jaw set, defiance rising. This was no mere chase. It was a galactic showdown, with him, a simple engineer, at its heart. The surprising twist sent shivers down his spine. Perhaps he was the key to unraveling it all. The passage twisted, leading to an underground hangar where a sleek shuttle awaited. its engines humming to life as if summoned. But Zorath's projection pursued, energy tendrils lashing out, forcing them to dodge and weave in a thrilling chase through the corridors. Max fired his disruptor, disrupting the holograms momentarily, buying time. Lyra countered with bursts of her power, but fatigue showed, her steps faltering, relying more on him. In a dramatic surge, they reached the shuttle, blasting off just as the tendrils grazed the hull. The cavern collapsed behind them, a climactic explosion that buried the secrets for now. As they shot toward the surface, breaking through ice into Velquar's stormy skies, Max piloted with expert hands, evading incoming fire from orbital ships. Lyra collapsed into the co-pilot's seat, her hand finding his. Mother's power, it's tied to me. If she finds us, she'll use it to crush everything. The revelation hung heavy, curious threads pulling at Max's mind. What if he could turn that power against her? The thrilling escape continued, stars streaking by, surprises lurking in every shadow, but as they hyperspace jumped to safety, a final surprise, Lyra's wound glowed, healing itself with stellar energy. There's more to tell, she admitted, her voice a dramatic promise of revelations to come. The hyperspace tunnel enveloped them in a kaleidoscope of streaking stars, the shuttle's engines humming a steady lullaby that contrasted sharply with the chaos they'd left behind on Velquar. Max gripped the controls, his knuckles white, as the adrenaline from their narrow escape began to ebb, leaving room for the weight of Lyra's words to settle in. Her wound had sealed itself in a mesmerizing display of ethereal light, the skin knitting back together without a scar, as if the stars themselves had mended her. She sat beside him, her posture regal even in exhaustion. The coat, now dried and rumpled from their ordeals, still draped over her shoulders like a badge of their unlikely alliance. More to tell, she had said, and now, in the relative safety of this warp bubble, the drama of her confession hung heavy, demanding to be unraveled. Max glanced at her, trying to mask the whirlwind of emotions churning inside him, awe at her power. A twinge of betrayal for the secrets kept, and an undercurrent of that magnetic pull that made his skin tingle whenever she was near. "All right, princess," he said, injecting a touch of wry humor into his voice to lighten the thickening air. "Spill it. What's this more about? Because if your mom's got a habit of sending holographic death threats, I think I deserve the full brochure before we plan our next date." Lyra's violet eyes met his, a faint smile tugging at her lips despite the gravity of the moment. She shifted in her seat, the movement causing the coat to slip just enough to reveal the elegant curve of her neck, a reminder of their earlier intimacies that added an awkward layer to the conversation, like discussing family drama while still flushed from a lover's touch. "Date? Is that what humans call fleeing for our lives?" She teased back, her melodic voice carrying a hint of amusement that cut through the tension. But then her expression sobered, the drama heightening as she leaned forward, her pointed ears twitching slightly. "My mother, Empress Zorath, her power isn't just galactic, it's bound to our bloodline. I inherited a fragment of it, the ability to channel stellar energies, but it's unstable in me, wild. That's why she hunts me not out of love, but to harvest it, to fuse it back into her own essence and become unstoppable." Max let out a low whistle, his mind reeling as he adjusted the shuttle's trajectory to evade any potential trackers. The revelation was dramatic, a cosmic soap opera unfolding in real time, with him cast as the unwitting hero. Harvest? Like, what? Soul-sucking family reunion? That's messed up. And here I thought my family holidays were awkward, at least no one tries to bend stars at the dinner table. He chuckled, but it came out forced, the humor a thin veil over the growing unease. How did a guy like him, an engineer used to fixing engines and dodging overseers, end up entangled in this? The shuttle's console beeped a warning, a minor fluctuation in the hyperspace field, and he tapped it absent-mindedly, his thoughts drifting to the awkwardness of their situation. Two fugitives, one human slave and one alien princess, barreling through space with secrets exploding like supernovas. As if sensing his turmoil, Lyra reached over, her hand covering his on the control stick. The touch was electric, sending a jolt that made him hyper-aware of their proximity in the cramped cockpit. Her skin was warm now, infused with that inner glow, and the way her fingers intertwined with his felt intimate, almost too much so in this high-stakes moment. "Max, I didn't choose this path lightly," she continued, her voice dropping to a dramatic whisper that echoed the shuttle's hum. "Zorathia is crumbling under her rule, factions rising, worlds rebelling. I fled to find a way to sever the bond, to free myself and perhaps weaken her. But now, with you, it's complicated." She paused, her gaze lingering on his face. And in that instant, an awkward flush crept up her cheeks, her pale skin tinting a soft lavender. "Your coat. It smells like you. Earthy, strong, it grounds me." Max blinked, caught off guard by the vulnerability, the drama of her words clashing with the mundane detail. He laughed, a genuine, belly-deep sound that broke the heaviness. "My coat? Lady, that's just sweat and engine grease. If that's your idea of romance, we've got bigger problems than your mom." But even as he joked, he felt the pull. The way her presence filled the cockpit with an intoxicating mix of danger and desire. The shuttle lurched slightly as they exited hyperspace, emerging into a nebula-strewn sector dotted with asteroid fields, a neutral zone, hopefully far from Zorathian patrols. He maneuvered them toward a derelict space station orbiting a gas giant, its hulking form a relic from some forgotten war, perfect for laying low. Docking was a tense affair, the clamps engaging with a metallic thud that reverberated through the hull. As they powered down, Lyra stood, the coat swirling around her like a cape, accentuating her G-1EE3I C-1EA3M figure in a way that made Max's thoughts wander inconveniently. "This place. It could have supplies," she suggested, but as they exited the shuttle into the station's dimly lit corridors, the drama escalated. Alarms blared faintly, not from intruders, but from automated systems detecting life signs. Lights flickered on, revealing a labyrinth of abandoned labs and quarters, dust motes dancing in the artificial gravity like silent witnesses to past glories. They explored cautiously, Max's toolkit at the ready, hacking into a console to access the station's logs. "Looks like this was a research outpost," he muttered, scrolling through holographic displays. "Zorathian tech, but old pre-Empire stuff, might have tools to mask our signal." Lyra nodded, but as she leaned over his shoulder to look, her body pressed against his back, her breath warm on his ear. The awkwardness hit like a comet. Here they were, in a life-or-death scenario, yet the air crackled with unspoken tension, her curves fitting against him in a way that was distractingly perfect. Personal space?" he quipped, trying to play it off with humor, but his voice came out huskier than intended. "Or is this how princesses review data back home?" She pulled back slightly, her laugh light and melodic, but with a dramatic undertone of embarrassment. "Forgive me, your aura draws me. It's different from my kind, raw, passionate." The words hung there, heightening the drama as the console suddenly sparked, overloaded from his hasty hack. Sparks flew, and Max yelped, jumping back and accidentally pulling Lyra with him. They tumbled onto a nearby bunk in a heap, her on top, the coat tangling around them like a comedic snare. For a moment, time froze in awkward hilarity, her silver hair cascading over his face. Their bodies aligned in a position that screamed intimacy, yet born from sheer clumsiness. "Smooth, Max," he groaned, half laughing, half mortified, as she propped herself up on her elbows, her violet eyes sparkling with amusement. "If this is your escape plan, we're doomed." But beneath the humor, the drama simmered. Her weight on him was thrilling, a reminder of their earlier passions, and the way she lingered, not immediately moving away, added layers of tension. "Perhaps it's fate," she murmured, her lips inches from his, the situation teetering on the edge of something more. Then, a station-wide announcement crackled to life, an automated voice in Zorathian, warning of self-destruct protocols initiating due to unauthorized access. Panic surged, heightening the drama to a fever pitch. Max extricated himself, helping her up with a grin that masked his racing heart. "Great! Now we've got a ticking bomb on our hands. Nothing says romantic getaway like impending explosion." They dashed to the central control room, Lyra using her powers to interface with the ancient systems, her hands glowing as she overrode the countdown. But the process was fraught, energy feedback arcing, forcing her to channel more than she should, her body straining dramatically under the load. Max supported her, his arms around her waist, the awkward closeness amplifying the stakes. "Hold on," he urged, injecting humor to steady them. "If we blow up, at least it'll be together, talk about going out with a bang." As the countdown halted at the last second, relief washed over them, but not without a twist. The station's logs revealed a hidden cache of artifacts, one of which pulsed in sync with Lyra's energy. This could be the key to severing the bond," she gasped, clutching it. But activating it triggered a holographic map, projecting Zorath's fleet positions, closing in faster than anticipated. The drama peaked as they realized they were cornered, the awkward intimacy of their tumble forgotten in the face of looming confrontation. Racing back to the shuttle, Max plotted a desperate course through the asteroid field, humor his shield against the fear. "Buckle up," princess. Time for some human-style evasive maneuvers. Think of it as a joyride with lasers. Lyra strapped in, her hand finding his again, the touch a blend of comfort and spark. As they launched, enemy ships winked into view, weapons charging. The chase was on, drama unfolding in laser bursts and near misses, awkward dodges that had them laughing through gritted teeth. One asteroid clipped their wing, spinning them wildly, and in the chaos, Lyra's coat flew off, landing comically over the console. "Not now," Max barked, shoving it aside with a chuckle, stabilizing the craft just in time to slip through a narrow gap. The humor buoyed them, turning terror into triumph as they evaded the first wave. But Zorath's voice echoed through comms, a dramatic ultimatum: return or perish. Lyra's face paled, the artifact in her lap glowing ominously. Max squeezed her hand. "We've got this. Awkward as it is, you're stuck with me." The field cleared, revealing a wormhole anomaly, a surprising escape route. They plunged in, the drama leaving them breathless, bonds strengthened by shared laughter and peril. Yet, emerging on the other side brought new awkwardness. A neutral planet's orbit, teeming with traitors, where they'd have to blend in disguised as a couple, perhaps adding humorous layers to their deepening connection. The wormhole spat them out into the bustling orbit of a Landor Prime, a neutral trading hub where ships from 100 worlds darted like fireflies around massive docking rings, their hulls glinting under the dual sun's warm glow. Max eased the shuttle into a low-profile berth, the clamps engaging with a soft hiss that seemed to echo the relief flooding through him. The asteroid chase had been a heart-pounding blur, Zorath's ultimatum still ringing in his ears like a distant storm. But for now, they were hidden in the chaos of commerce, traders haggling over exotic goods, smugglers slipping through shadows, and no immediate sign of Zorathian hunters. Lyra's hand lingered on his, her touch a steady anchor amid the whirlwind. The artifact clutched in her lap, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat synced to her own. He powered down the systems. The cockpit falling into a hushed intimacy, lit only by the console's soft amber lights and the panoramic view of the planet below, swirling clouds over verdant continents dotted with sprawling megacities. "We made it," Max breathed, turning to her with a mix of exhaustion and triumph. The coat had resettled around her shoulders during the jump, but her garment beneath was still disheveled from their trials, clinging in ways that highlighted her graceful form. She looked at him with those violet eyes, deep and inviting, a silent acknowledgement of the bond that had carried them through fire and void. "Elandor," she murmured, her voice carrying a note of wonder as she gazed out. "A world of masks and mergers. We can blend here, but we must be careful, act as if we're together." The word hung between them, laden with the unspoken layers of their connection, the dramatic pull that had woven desire into every glance and touch since that first shared warmth on Velquar. Max nodded, his thumb tracing gentle circles on the back of her hand, a simple gesture that sparked warmth in the cool cabin air. "Together it is. Come on, let's find a safe spot to regroup. That artifact isn't going to explain itself." They disembarked into the station's crowded corridors, the air thick with the sense of spiced foods from distant stars and the hum of multilingual chatter. To blend, they adopted the guise of a traveling pair, his arm around her waist protectively, her head leaning on his shoulder as they navigated the throngs. It felt natural, almost too much so, the pretense blurring into reality with every step. They secured a modest quarters in a mid-level hab block, a cozy suite overlooking the orbital rings, paid for with credits scavenged from the shuttle's emergency kit. The door sealed behind them with a soft click, shutting out the galaxy's noise and leaving them in a bubble of quiet intimacy. Lyra set the artifact on a low table, its glow casting dancing shadows on the walls, but her attention shifted to Max as he shrugged off his gear, his muscles aching from the day's exertions. "You saved us again," she said softly, stepping closer, her fingers brushing his arm in a way that sent a shiver through him. The drama of their escape lingered, heightening every sensation, turning the room into a stage for something deeper. He turned to her, pulling her into a gentle embrace, the coat falling away as she melted against him. "We saved each other," he replied, his voice low and reassuring. Their eyes locked, the air thickening with anticipation, the pull between them undeniable after so many close calls. Lyra's lips parted slightly, inviting, and Max leaned in, capturing them in a kiss that started slow, tender, a release of the pent-up tension from their flight. Her hands roamed up his back, exploring the firm lines of his frame, while his fingers tangled in her silver hair, the strands silky and cool like moonlit silk. The kiss deepened, passion building like a gathering storm, their bodies pressing closer in a dance of need and comfort. Lyra's form was soft yet strong against him, her curves fitting perfectly as if designed for this moment, her skin warm and glowing faintly with that interstellar energy. She guided him toward the bed, a plush expanse that welcomed them like an old friend, their movements fluid and unhurried. As they sank onto it, clothes were shed with care, his shirt first, revealing the scars of his enslavement that she traced with gentle fingers, her touch healing in its tenderness. Her garment followed, slipping away to unveil the elegant beauty of her, pale skin shimmering under the room's soft lights, her pointed ears flushing with a delicate hue. In the quiet sanctuary of the suite, they explored each other with a reverence born of survival's edge, every caress an affirmation of life. Max's hands mapped the contours of her body, eliciting soft sighs from her as she arched into his touch, her responses a symphony of whispers and gasps that fueled his own desire. There was a rhythm to it, slow and building, their connection deepening with each shared breath. Lyra's energy hummed subtly, a warm vibration that enhanced the sensations, making every moment feel amplified, like stars aligning in harmony. She pulled him closer, their forms intertwining in an intimate union that blurred the lines between human and alien, passion overriding all differences. Time stretched in that shared bliss, their movements synchronized in a tender exploration of pleasure and trust. Whispers of affection filled the air, his murmurs of how she captivated him, her replies in melodic tones about the fire he ignited within her. The artifact's glow seemed to pulse in time with their rhythm, as if blessing this union, but they were lost in each other, the outside world fading to irrelevance. It was a culmination of their journey so far, a physical expression of the emotional bond forged in peril, where vulnerability met strength in perfect balance. As the intensity peaked, waves of ecstasy washed over them, leaving them breathless and entwined, bodies glistening with the afterglow of their connection. Lyra rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart, a human drum that grounded her amid the cosmic chaos. Max held her close, his fingers stroking her back in lazy patterns, the drama of their situation momentarily at bay in this haven of intimacy. "Whatever comes next," he whispered, planting a soft kiss on her forehead. "We face it like this, united." But even in repose, the artifact stirred on the table, its light brightening subtly, hinting at revelations yet to unfold. Lyra's eyes fluttered open, a mix of contentment and curiosity shining through. "The bond, I feel it shifting," she said softly, her hand trailing down his arm. The moment lingered, their shared warmth a shield against the encroaching unknown. But the pull of destiny tugged gently, promising more trials ahead. They rose eventually, dressing with lingering touches and stolen kisses, the air still charged with their closeness. Max examined the artifact while Lyra prepared a simple meal from the suite's replicator, the domesticity a brief respite that added depth to their connection. As they ate, discussing plans in hushed tones, the station's comms chimed, an incoming message, anonymous but urgent, coordinates to a hidden enclave where rebels against Zorath gathered. The drama reignited, but now fortified by their intimate bond. Venturing out under the cover of evening cycles, they navigated Alandor's vibrant markets, hand in hand, the artifact concealed in Max's toolkit. Whispers of Zorath's fleet movements reached them through trader gossip, heightening the stakes, but their recent closeness lent them strength. In a shadowed alley, they met a contact, a grizzled alien with tentacles for hair, who eyed them suspiciously before nodding. The Empress's daughter and her human consort? "Bold, follow me." The enclave was underground, a network of chambers buzzing with defiant energy, holograms displaying battle plans against Zorathia. Lyra presented the artifact, and as it interfaced with their systems, a surge of data flowed, maps of weaknesses in Zorath's power grid, tied to stellar alignments. But activation required a ritual, one that demanded Lyra channel her energy fully. Risking exposure, as preparations began, Max stood by her side, his presence a constant reassurance. The intimacy they'd shared lingered in every glance, fueling their resolve. Yet, as the ritual commenced under the enclave's domed ceiling, simulating a starry night, tremors shook the ground. Zorath's forces had traced them, breaching the planet's defenses. Alarms blared, rebels scrambling to arms, and Max grabbed a nearby blaster, pulling Lyra into cover. The fight erupted in dramatic fashion, laser fire crisscrossing the chamber, but their bond made them unbreakable, Max's quick thinking diverting a squad with a hacked turret, Lyra's power shielding allies in bursts of light. In the midst of chaos, they shared a fierce kiss, passion reigniting amid peril, a promise to endure. The artifact activated fully, revealing Zorath's core vulnerability, a nexus point on her throne world, accessible only through a forbidden gate. Escaping the fray in a stolen fighter, they set course for the gate, hearts entwined, ready for the ultimate confrontation. The intimacy of their connection had transformed them, turning fear into fuel, as the stars beckoned with promise and danger. The stars streaked past the fighter's viewport in hypnotic lines as Max punched in the coordinates for the forbidden gate, the ship's engines thrumming with a determined growl that matched the resolve stealing his nerves. Lyra sat beside him, her hand still warm in his from their hurried escape, the afterglow of their intimate moments on a landor lingering like a soft veil over the urgency of their flight. The rebel enclave's chaos faded behind them, smoke from laser scorches and the echoes of defiant shouts, but the artifact's data pulsed on the console, a holographic map guiding them toward Zorathia's heart, where the Nexus awaited. "This gate," Lyra explained, her voice steady yet laced with the intimacy they'd shared. "It's a rift in space-time, guarded by Mother's sentinels. Crossing it will test us, but it's the only path to severing her hold." Max nodded, his fingers dancing over the controls to optimize their trajectory, drawing on every scrap of engineering know-how from his days in the forges. The fighter was sleek, a Zorathian design pilfered in the heat of battle, its systems interfacing seamlessly with Lyra's energy as she channeled subtle pulses to cloak their signature. Their bond felt unbreakable now, forged in passion and peril, turning what could have been a desperate dash into a shared odyssey. He stole a glance at her, admiring the way her silver hair caught the console's glow, her pointed ears alert, her form still radiating that ethereal allure that had captivated him from the start. "We've come this far," he said, squeezing her hand. "Whatever's waiting, we'll handle it like we handled that Enclave brawl, you and me against the galaxy." She smiled, leaning closer, her scent, a blend of stardust and wild blooms, enveloping him in comfort. "You make it sound simple, my human hero, but yes, together." As they approached the gate sector, a nebula's swirling gases painted the void in vibrant purples and blues, a deceptive beauty hiding the dangers ahead. Sensors pinged softly, detecting automated defenses, drone swarms patrolling the rift's perimeter, their lights winking like predatory eyes. Max evaded the first wave with deft maneuvers, the fighter banking sharply, Lyra's power boosting the shields in timely bursts that absorbed glancing hits. The intimacy of their recent connection seemed to enhance their synergy, her energy flowing through the ship as if it were an extension of their joined wills. Deeper into the nebula, the gate materialized, a shimmering vortex of warped space, framed by ancient obelisks that hummed with forbidden power. But as they neared, an anomaly registered, a fluctuation in the artifact's signal, growing erratic. Lyra frowned, placing her hand on it. "Something's wrong, it's reacting," as if calling out. Before Max could respond, the comms crackled to life unbidden, Zorath's voice booming through the speakers with imperial authority. "Daughter, you tread on sacred ground, turn back or face the consequences of your folly." The drama escalated in an instant, the fighter shuddering as energy tendrils lashed out from the obelisks, snaring their vessel like cosmic vines. Max wrestled the controls, firing thrusters to break free, but the grip tightened, pulling them inexorably toward the gate. Lyra channeled her power, violet light flaring around her, countering the tendrils with waves of stellar force. "Mother, release us," she cried, her voice echoing through the link. Zorath's laughter rang cold and mocking. "You think you can defy me with that trinket? It was I who placed it in your path, guiding you here." Max's heart skipped, but he pushed the doubt aside, focusing on rerouting power to the engines. They broke free momentarily, spiraling toward the vortex, but Zorath's presence loomed larger, a holographic projection materializing in the cockpit, her form towering and regal, eyes like black holes drawing in all light. "And you, human pest," she sneered, addressing Max directly. "Your meddling ends now. Lyra's power is mine to claim." The ship plunged into the gate, reality twisting around them in a maelstrom of colors and sensations, time dilating as memories flashed unbidden, Max's enslavement on Velquar, Lyra's lonely flights through shadowed courts. Emerging on the other side, they found themselves in Zorathia's throne system, a fortress world orbited by armadas of gleaming ships, but the artifact surged violently, overloading the console in sparks and smoke. Lyra gasped, clutching it as visions assaulted her. Revelations encoded within, unlocking like a floodgate. In that surge, the powerful twist unveiled itself, catching them both off guard in a whirlwind of surprise. The artifact wasn't just a key to severing the bond, it revealed that Max wasn't merely a random human engineer snatched from Earth's colonies. Holographic records played out. Years ago, during a covert Zorathian expedition to human space, Zorath had encountered Max's parents, scientists on a frontier outpost. In a bid to harness human resilience for her experiments, she had orchestrated their capture. But they escaped, leaving behind a child, Max, whom she had subtly influenced from afar, embedding a latent connection to her power through genetic tampering. He wasn't fully human. A sliver of Zorathian essence coursed through his veins, explaining his uncanny adaptability, his intuitive grasp of alien tech, and the magnetic pull between him and Lyra. Lyra's eyes widened in shock, turning to him as the truth sank in. You're connected to her, to us? The surprise hit Max like a supernova, his world shattering and reforming in an instant. Memories resurfaced, unexplained dreams of stars bending. A childhood fascination with cosmic forces that no Earth education could account for. That can't be, he stammered, hands trembling on the controls. I'm just me from Earth. This has to be a trick. But the artifact confirmed it, projecting DNA strands intertwining human and Zorathian helixes, Zorath's voice overlaying with triumphant glee. Yes, my unwitting pawn. I seeded you into the galaxy, a backup vessel for my power should Lyra fail me. Your escape from Velquar, your meeting, it was all orchestrated. Now, come to me and fulfill your purpose. The revelation twisted everything, surprising layers peeling back to expose a grand manipulation. Max's act of kindness with the coat hadn't been chance. It was fate engineered by Zorath to draw Lyra out. Yet, in that surprise, a spark of defiance ignited. If he carried her power, perhaps he could turn it against her. The fighter rocked as interceptors closed in, lasers streaking past, but Max's mind raced with newfound clarity. If I'm part of this, he growled, channeling an unfamiliar surge of energy that stabilized the ship, then I'll use it to end her. Lyra reached for him, her touch electric, amplifying the latent power within. Brother, no, more than that, we'll rewrite this destiny. The surprise bonded them anew, transforming shock into strength as they evaded the fleet, diving toward the throne world's atmosphere. Zorath's armada pursued, a dramatic Armageddon unfolding, but Max's hybrid nature allowed him to interface directly with the ship's systems, boosting speed and shields in ways pure engineering couldn't. Planetside, they crash-landed in a crystalline forest near the Nexus Palace, the impact jarring but survivable. Emerging from the wreckage, Max felt the power humming in his blood, a surprising awakening that made his skin glow faintly, mirroring Lyra's. I remember now, he said, piecing together fragmented visions. My parents, they fought her, hid me. This isn't her victory, it's ours. Zorath's forces encircled them, ground troops advancing with weapons drawn, but the twist empowered Max. He unleashed a burst of energy, disarming a squad in a wave of light, surprising even himself with the control. Lyra joined him, their powers syncing in a harmonious duet, carving a path through the guards. The palace loomed, its spires piercing the sky like accusatory fingers, Zorath waiting within. As they stormed the halls, ornate corridors echoing with alarms, the surprise deepened. Zorath appeared not as a tyrant, but weakened, her form flickering like a failing hologram. You think this changes anything? She taunted, but her voice wavered. The artifact had exposed her vulnerability, her power was waning, reliant on siphoning from her children. Max's existence was her desperation, not mastery. In the throne room, a vast chamber domed with star maps, the confrontation peaked. Zorath lunged with tendrils of darkness, but Max countered, his human resilience blending with Zorathian might to deflect them. Lyra flanked her, the siblings, bound by blood and choice, overwhelming the Empress. Your games end here, Max declared, the twist turning him from slave to savior. With a final surge, they shattered her core nexus, her form dissolving in a cascade of light. The Empire trembled, factions rising in the vacuum, but Max and Lyra stood united, the surprise of his heritage forging a new legacy. Yet, as peace settled, a lingering question, was Zorath truly gone, or had the twist merely begun a larger saga? They emerged into the light, hand in hand, ready for whatever surprises the stars held next. As the crystalline forest shards crunched under their boots, reflecting the throne world's dual moons in a mosaic of fractured light, Max and Lyra stepped out from the palace's shadow, the weight of their victory hanging like a fragile crown. Zorath's dissolution had sent shockwaves through the Empire, fleets in disarray, loyalists scattering like leaves in a cosmic wind, but the air still thrummed with uncertainty, as if the stars themselves held their breath. Max's hand clasped Lyra's tightly, his newfound power humming faintly in his veins, a surprising legacy that made every step feel charged with potential. "If she's really gone," he said, his voice a mix of triumph and wariness, "then what's next? Do we just rule or run?" Lyra glanced at him, her violet eyes reflecting the same blend of elation and doubt, her silver hair tousled from the battle, giving her an almost wild, untamed beauty. "The nexus is shattered, her essence scattered to the voids, but empires don't crumble in a day. Factions will vie for power, some may see us as liberators, others as threats." She paused, squeezing his hand, the intimacy of their bond a steady undercurrent amid the unfolding drama. The forest path widened into a clearing where Zorath's personal shuttle gleamed untouched, a sleek vessel that promised escape or command. As they approached, alarms wailed distantly from the palace ruins, heightening the tension. Reinforcements, or just the death throes of a fallen regime? Max hacked the shuttle's access panel with a burst of his hybrid energy, the door hissing open to reveal opulent interiors, plush seats embroidered with stellar motifs, a console alive with holographic alerts flashing warnings of system-wide unrest. "Looks like Mom's ride," he quipped, trying to inject humor into the mounting drama, but his tone carried an awkward edge, referring to Zorath that way still felt surreal, like a bad family reunion joke gone cosmic. Lyra shot him a look, half amused, half exasperated, as she settled into the co-pilot seat. "If you're claiming inheritance, does that make this our first family heirloom? Careful, or I'll start calling you Prince Max." He chuckled, sliding into the pilot's chair, but the humor faltered as the engines roared to life, the shuttle lifting off with a dramatic shudder that mirrored the turmoil in his chest. Scans showed chaos unfolding, rebel ships clashing with loyalist fleets in orbit, planetary uprisings broadcasting pleas for leadership. "Great, we're the galaxy's most wanted siblings, or whatever we are," Max muttered, navigating through debris fields with skillful dodges, his human instincts blending seamlessly with the Zorathian surge guiding his hands. Lyra leaned over to adjust a shield modulator, her body brushing against his in the confined space, an awkward reminder of their deeper connection, sparking a flush he tried to ignore amid the peril. "Siblings by blood, but more by choice," she replied softly, her fingers lingering on his arm, turning the moment into a charged pause that heightened the drama. Was this affection, or the pull of shared power? The uncertainty added an awkward layer, like dancing on the edge of a black hole. As they broke atmosphere, a loyalist cruiser locked onto them, its weapons charging with ominous glows. "Incoming!" Max yelled, banking hard, but the shuttle clipped a satellite fragment, spinning them wildly. Alarms blared, and in the chaos, Lyra tumbled into his lap, her curves pressing against him in a position that was equal parts protective and mortifying. "Not the time for laps, princess," he exclaimed, laughter bubbling up despite the danger, his hands steadying her while rerouting power to stabilizers. She righted herself with a graceful twist, her cheeks tinting lavender, but fired back with a grin. "Blame your piloting, brother, or is this your way of saying you missed our closeness?" The humor cut through the tension, but the drama surged as the cruiser fired, a plasma bolt grazing their hull and sending sparks flying. Max countered with an evasive loop, channeling energy to boost the engines, the shuttle streaking toward a nearby asteroid belt for cover. "Hold on time for some hide-and-seek with the big bad wolves." Lyra synced her power to the weapons array, unleashing targeted bursts that disabled the cruiser's turrets, her focus intense yet laced with that awkward intimacy as their energies intertwined, making the cockpit feel smaller, more personal. The belt loomed, jagged rocks tumbling in slow motion, and Max threaded through them with precision, but a near miss rocked the ship, knocking loose a panel that bonked him on the head. "Oh, universe's way of saying watch your ego?" He groaned, rubbing the spot, eliciting a genuine laugh from Lyra that lightened the dire chase. Deeper into the belt, they lost the cruiser temporarily, but scans revealed a larger threat, a armada rallying under a self-proclaimed successor, broadcasting demands for their surrender. The drama heightened to a fever pitch. Were they saviors or fugitives? Lyra's face paled as she intercepted a message. "They're claiming Zorath's will name's a hidden heir, but with her gone, it's a power grab." Max's mind raced, the awkwardness of his heritage bubbling up. "Hidden heir? If that's me, do I get a crown, or just more target practice?" He tried humor to deflect, but the words stuck, revealing his inner turmoil. What if this power changed him? Lyra touched his shoulder, her gaze softening. You're more than her experiment, Max. You're the man who gave me his coat in the snow. The moment was tender, but interrupted by a proximity alert, a derelict station embedded in an asteroid, its lights flickering invitingly. Let's dock there, regroup, Max suggested, maneuvering in. The station was a relic, corridors echoing with ghostly silence, automated systems whirring to life at their presence. As they explored for supplies, the drama unfolded in unexpected ways. A holographic archive activated, projecting Zorath's private logs. Entries revealed her obsession with human potential, awkward confessions of loneliness that humanized the tyrant. She envied our resilience, Lyra whispered, standing close to Max, their shoulders brushing in the dim light. But then a log played Zorath admitting to engineering Max not just as a vessel, but as a potential mate for Lyra to strengthen the bloodline. The revelation hit like a comet, creating an intensely awkward silence. Max froze, staring at the hologram. Wait, what? She played Galactic matchmaker? That's creepy on so many levels. He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck, but the humor couldn't fully mask the drama. Did this taint their connection? Lyra turned to him, her expression a mix of shock and defiance. It doesn't change us, we chose this. Yet, as she stepped closer, the air thickened, their proximity turning awkward in the archive's glow. A sudden system glitch locked the door, trapping them in the room, heightening the stakes. Perfect timing, Max quipped, trying the panel futilely. Stuck with my intended rom-com or horror flick, they worked together to override it, Lyra's energy interfacing with the tech while Max jury-rigged wires, their hands overlapping in clumsy, charged touches that added humorous fumbles to the tension. Careful, or you'll short-circuit me, she teased, but her voice held a dramatic undertone of vulnerability. As the door finally hissed open, alarms blared, loyalists had tracked them, boarding parties inbound. The drama exploded into action. They dashed through corridors, Max blasting doors with energy bursts, Lyra shielding them from security drones. A narrow escape led to a zero-grav chamber, where they floated awkwardly, bodies colliding in mid-air spins that elicited laughs amid laser fire. Zero-G Tango? Max joked, pulling her close to propel them forward. Reaching the shuttle bay, they repelled boarders in a fierce skirmish, Max's power flaring to disarm foes while Lyra wove protective barriers. One assailant, recognizing them, hesitated. The heirs, join us? The plea added dramatic weight, allegiance, or annihilation. Max declined with a quip. Thanks, but we're not into family businesses. They launched, evading pursuers with daring maneuvers, the station exploding behind them in a spectacular fireball. Now streaking toward a neutral system, the awkward revelations simmered, but humor bridged the gaps. So, about that matchmaking, Max ventured, grinning. Think Zorath had a type? Lyra rolled her eyes, laughing. Humans with coats, apparently. The drama of rebuilding an empire loomed, but their bond, tested and true, promised resilience. Yet, as they hyperspaced away, an encrypted signal pinged, the artifact reactivating with a final message from Zorath. My children, the game continues. The twist lingered, heightening the uncertainty, but Max and Lyra faced it together. Awkward situations and all, with humor as their shield. The hyperspace conduit enveloped them in a cocoon of swirling azure light, the shuttle's hull vibrating gently as it hurtled toward the uncharted fringes of the galaxy, away from the smoldering remnants of Zorathia's core worlds. Max stared at the console. Zorath's cryptic message, my children, the game continues, looping in his mind like a haunting refrain, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the steady rhythm of Lyra's breathing beside him. Her hand rested on his thigh, a quiet anchor in the storm of uncertainties, her presence a reminder that whatever shadows lingered, they faced them as one. The artifact, now dimmed to a soft glow on the dashboard, seemed to pulse in sync with their heartbeats, as if echoing the bond that had carried them through betrayal, battle, and the awkward revelations of blood ties twisted by cosmic ambition. As the ship emerged into real space, a tranquil nebula unfurled before them, a vast expanse of pastel clouds dotted with newborn stars, like a canvas painted by the universe itself in celebration of new beginnings. Max adjusted their course toward a distant habitable world the scans flagged as neutral, its surface a mosaic of oceans and emerald continents untouched by Empire's grasp. Looks promising, he murmured, glancing at Lyra. No fleets, no alarms, maybe a place to catch our breath, figure out this game she's talking about. She nodded, her violet eyes reflecting the nebula's hues, a soft smile curving her lips despite the weight of their journey. The drama of Zorath's fall had left scars, emotional echoes that surfaced in quiet moments, but here, in the vast quietude, hope began to bloom. They descended through the atmosphere, the shuttle skimming over turquoise seas before settling on a secluded beach where white sands met lush forests alive with alien flora. The air was crisp, scented with salt and blooming vines that twisted like living sculptures under the gentle sun. Max powered down the systems, and they stepped out together, the warm breeze tugging at Lyra's tattered garment, which clung to her form in elegant disarray, accentuating the graceful curves that had first drawn him in amid Velquar's snows. She shed the coat, his coat, now a symbol of their shared path, and draped it over a nearby rock, her pale skin glowing in the sunlight, her pointed ears perking at the distant calls of exotic birds. "This world, it's free," she said softly, turning to him with a vulnerability that made his chest tighten. "Like us, perhaps." Max pulled her into his arms, embrace natural and unhurried, their bodies fitting together as if the stars had aligned them from the start. The awkwardness of their engineered connection had faded in the fires of their trials, replaced by a profound acceptance that deepened their intimacy. "Free, yeah," he replied, his voice rough with emotion. "But not alone. Whatever Zorath meant, we'll handle it. Humans have a saying, the game's not over till it's over, and with you, I'm betting on us." She laughed lightly, the sound melodic and freeing, her fingers tracing the lines of his jaw, lingering on the faint glow that now marked his skin, a subtle reminder of his hybrid heritage. It no longer felt like a curse. Instead, it was a bridge, blending his earthly resilience with her stellar grace. They wandered the beach hand in hand, the waves lapping at their feet in rhythmic whispers, washing away the grime of battles past. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, they found a natural alcove sheltered by overhanging cliffs, where bioluminescent flowers unfurled like living lanterns. Lyra spread the coat on the soft sand, creating an impromptu haven, and they sat together, sharing stories that wove their worlds into one. Max spoke of Earth's vast oceans, of human ingenuity that turned adversity into art, skyscrapers piercing clouds, music that captured souls. Lyra shared tales of Zorathia's ancient stars, of a time before tyranny when her people danced under auroras, their powers a gift for harmony rather than conquest. In these exchanges, the drama of their saga transformed into something poetic, a testament to how two souls from distant realms could redefine destiny. As night fell, the stars emerged like scattered diamonds, and the intimacy between them reignited, gentle and profound. Lyra leaned into him, her lips brushing his in a kiss that carried the weight of galaxies, her hands exploring the familiar terrain of his body with a tenderness born of true connection. They moved together under the celestial canopy, their union a celebration of survival and love, bodies entwining in a rhythm that echoed the universe's eternal pulse. Max marveled at her, the way her skin shimmered with inner light, her curves yielding yet strong, every touch a spark that ignited his soul. She whispered his name like a prayer, her responses a symphony of soft sighs and arched forms, their passion building to a crescendo that left them breathless, wrapped in each other's warmth as the flowers glow-bathed them in ethereal hues. In the afterglow, they lay entwined, gazing at the stars. "Do you think she'll return?" Lyra asked quietly, her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his human heart, a sound that grounded her in ways no empire could. Max considered it, the message's shadow lingering, but he shook his head. "If she does, we'll be ready. But for now, let's build something better. Zorathia needs leaders who understand freedom, not control, and with my engineering smarts and your stellar power, we could turn it into a beacon for the galaxy." His words carried a quiet optimism, the HFY spirit shining through, humanity's unyielding empathy and innovation proving once again that even in the face of cosmic tyrants, kindness could conquer. Days blended into weeks on their sanctuary world, as they repaired the shuttle and monitored transmissions from afar. Word spread through the fractured empire. Zorath's fall had sparked revolutions, factions uniting under banners of reform rather than revenge. Max and Lyra became legends, the human who wrapped an alien princess in his coat, igniting a rebellion with a single act of compassion. When they finally returned, it was not as conquerors, but as guides, Max's hybrid nature allowing him to bridge divides, Lyra's wisdom tempering power with grace. They established a council on Zorathia's rebuilt throne world, where humans and Zorathians collaborated, sharing knowledge that propelled technology and harmony forward. Years passed, and the game Zorath alluded to revealed itself not as a threat, but as a metaphor for life's endless challenges, alliances forged, threats quelled, discoveries made. Max and Lyra's bond deepened, their love a constant amid the stars, blessed with children who embodied the best of both worlds, resilient hearts and stellar souls. On quiet evenings, they'd retreat to a garden overlooking the cosmos, Max's coat, now mended and cherished, draped over their shoulders like a shared cloak. Who knew a simple act in the snow would lead here? He'd say, pulling her close. Lyra would smile, her eyes sparkling. The universe did, and humanity's spirit made it real. In the end, their story wasn't just about defeating an empress or unraveling secrets. It was a testament to connection, proving that in the vast tapestry of the galaxy, a human's empathy could warm even the coldest voids, turning strangers into soulmates and empires into homes. As stars wheeled overhead, Max and Lyra looked to the future, hand in hand, ready for whatever wonders or games awaited, their love and eternal light guiding the way. And so, under the eternal stars, Max and Lyra forged a new era, where humanity's unbreakable spirit intertwined with alien wonders, proving that love and kindness could conquer even the vastest voids of space. Personally, I love how this HFY story highlights human resilience and empathy as ultimate strengths. It's inspiring and full of heart. What do you think? Would you want a sequel exploring their children's adventures? Or who was your favorite character? Thank you so much for watching. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares are the biggest motivation for us to create even better stories. Hit that button and let's keep the adventure going.